We are here today with Dr. Shibley Telhami, who is head of the Critical Issues Poll here at University of Maryland. Dr. Telhami, can you introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your research interests?
Thank you, Julian. Good to see you. I am a professor of international politics at Maryland. I teach on American foreign policy, Middle East politics, identity politics, conflict negotiations, but among other things, particularly in recent years, I have been doing public opinion polls. I've been actually doing public opinion polls for decades, both in the U.S. and internationally. Much of it has been in the U.S. and in the Middle East. I did a polling in the Middle East for a dozen years. I wrote a book about the results of those polls during a critical period. More recently, I've been mostly focused on the U.S. with occasional international polls. So we established this University of Maryland Critical Issues Poll basically to study issues that are related to our research, but also issues that are timely, that are important for the public discourse. Because one of the programs I had, which is the Sadat Chair for Peace and Development, of which I'm the chair professor, is really intended to link research and public policy. It is supposed to, that's part of the mandate, is not just to do research, but really to do research that's relevant to public policy and have a voice in public policy. And so in that spirit, we have tried not only to produce scholarly works in books and articles, but a lot of public policy type works in the media, in major newspapers like the Washington Post and New York Times, and Politico and Foreign Policy magazine, Foreign Affairs, but especially the Brookings Institution, where I'm also a non-resident senior fellow. So we have, with the Critical Issues Poll, I partnered with my outstanding colleague, Stella Rouse, who is a specialist in American politics, who's also the associate director of this program. And we have therefore focused not only on international politics and foreign policy, but also on domestic issues, things like, the American democracy, race issues, openness to immigration, things that are timely and that have engaged the public discourse in general.
What is it like working on the Critical Issues Poll? How do you put the questions together? How do people access the poll?
Well, first of all, in terms of accessing, we make it easy. So basically, we have a website, the Critical Issues website. We also have it on our Sadat Chair website, so people can access the results and the studies that you have been involved in the past that we put out as well. To kind of analyze some of the data that we have. We typically carry out at least 2 major polls, sometimes more. Like this year, I'm doing more, partly because, the Ukraine issue has been a huge issue, and we just released a very timely poll on Ukraine and attitude toward Ukraine. So this one was just focused on foreign policy, and it's out of sequence in a way. We are set up to do that kind of thing where there's a big issue and we can move quickly, we can carry it out quickly, and we can carry out at least put the results out in the public discourse very quickly. In fact, we put out the results in the public discourse within 24 hours of receiving the data. We already had something published and circulating in the public discourse. So we try to do it very, very quickly. With regard to the themes, we have a variety of approaches. I, of course, have my own research on which I have continuing research, particularly on American policy toward the Middle East. I have, in some cases, repeat questions. I'm studying change over time. So those are like core questions. We have a huge set of demographic questions because we are really trying to do some in-depth analysis beyond the superficial, and obvious demographics. We try to ask more in depth to try to get at some of the issues that may not be obvious. But we also have, Stella and I typically brainstorm about the themes that we both want to push for the next fall. And we then meet with the RA who's assigned to that, my assistant from the Sadat chair. Sometimes we consult with others, like now we're doing one on race. We're consulting with two other colleagues from our department who are giving us advice on how to proceed and some of the issues that would be done. And we meet together to formulate questions and obviously strategize about the questions we're going to ask before we field. Now, I want to also say that, and this is something obviously in terms of opportunity to other members of the department and graduate students, what we did since last year is offer one of our polls, open it to questions from colleagues in the department and to graduate students in the department for competition. And we've been able to accommodate a lot of people so far. More than half of the department in terms of colleagues and a large number of graduate students have been involved and have submitted questions for us related to the research that was carried out for free. And we were able to engage students that way and help advance the research. Students also get involved in obviously the direct RA-ship that we have in the program. Sometimes I will also hire someone even outside of the RA-ship for additional help if we need it as we go forward. So that's basically the big structure. But as I said, there's always a kind of a responsiveness to the political environment that we're facing. So whenever there is a crisis or a major issue, a critical issue that needs to be probed, we can move fast, either by adding a set of questions to a planned poll, or, as in this case with Ukraine, even designing a separate poll to probe those questions.
You mentioned a bit about your role as the Sadat chair as well. Can you tell us a bit more about the Sadat Center?
Sure. So, I've been at the University of Maryland, believe it or not, almost 25 years. This July, it'll be 25 years. Coming from Cornell, where I was a professor of international relations. But when I came here, one of the things that really attracted me, other than the location, which of course is, for someone who's involved in policy is not something to be underestimated, near Washington. But this chair was really designed to probe issues of conflict and peace specifically. It's called the Chair for Peace and Development, actually, but also to have this combination of research and public policy, which appealed to me quite a bit. And so over the years, we have done multiple projects related to this theme, aside from the polling, which is obvious, and aside from my own authorship of books and articles. We've had a lot of programs again, that engage the public discourse. We've had, for example, the Sadat chair, the Sadat Lecture for Peace, which was on an extraordinary scale. We've had some of the biggest personalities on the theme of peace in the world, like Nelson Mandela and Kofi Annan and the Dalai Lama and Jimmy Carter, and Mary Robinson and Muhammad al-Baradi, and people of that stature who have come, mostly Nobel laureates. Usually we bring them on a theme related to something we're doing, and we engage the students and the university community. Some of those were extraordinarily large, like in the case of the Dalai Lama, 15,000 people. In the case of Nelson Mandela and Kofi Annan, 10,000 people. We had to obviously use basketball arenas to accommodate them, and that was the maximum capacity during those days. But in between, we also have forums that are engaging. We bring in people on critical issues of the day, like in September we had the 20th anniversary of 9/11. We did a forum on that, and it included two of the top people involved on the Middle East in the White House at that time. Bruce Riedel, who was President Bush's advisor on the Middle East at that time, the White House advisor on the Middle East, and Ambassador Ryan Crocker, who was dispatched to Afghanistan immediately after the war, and as well as Professor Amani Jamal, who's the dean of Princeton School of Public Policy, for an engaging conversation, which actually broke new information because we had Bruce Riedel revealed for the first time that Bush actually told Prime Minister Tony Blair in his presence 3 days after 9/11 that he intended to attack Iraq, even without any link between Iraq and 9/11 or weapons of mass destruction. So this is the kind of stuff that we have that engages and usually adds some information to the public discourse. We also have a neat program, one that I really enjoy quite a bit, called the Sadat Art for Peace program, because our idea was that on themes of conflict and peace, on other issues of the day, you really need to try to engage other, not just social scientists and political scientists, but the larger community. And artists have a way of engaging these issues. So together with the art department, I put together what we call the Sadat Art for Peace program, which basically has a competition every year on a theme that we define. Like we had it on immigration, we had it on refugees. This year we had it on Islamophobia, and we have three-dimensional and two-dimensional art. Usually really high standards. You could see some of it online. We have those displayed, but also the artists then write up a description that captures the moment and adds to the conversation.
How can students learn more about the Critical Issues Poll, the Sadat Center, see some of the art that you mentioned? Where can they find all this information?
Well, we have a sadat.umd.edu, which is our, you can find pretty much everything there, including the Critical Issues Poll. And we have also the Critical Issues Poll website that you can go. Also, a lot of my work can be found on the Brookings Institution website, as I've been for about the same time, even longer than at Maryland as a senior fellow, and engage in various things that are going there, and they typically publish I do a lot of articles for them, like on this recent poll on Ukraine. I had an article summarizing the findings, so you find a lot of that stuff over there as well.
What advice do you have for students who might be interested in applying to the PhD program?
Well, I think one of the things about Maryland is that we are not only an excellent department, which I think, it shows by the type of faculty, the quality of faculty that we have, but, as someone who really taught at multiple institutions around the country, public and private, I would say that Maryland is one of the most collaborative departments, where we have collaborations across fields. First of all, we get along. That's not always true of all departments. Whether particularly subfields sometimes have tension, and I've experienced that in more than one department. Our department has cooperative relationship across fields, and collaborative relationship across fields as well. I mean, as I mentioned, I'm collaborating with Professor Rouse on the Critical Issues Poll, but I've collaborated with comparativists and Americanists writing an article, like we've done an experiment together on the impact of social media on polarization. and with three of my colleagues, two Americanists and one comparativist, and I'm an IR person. So we've it's collaborative. So for that reason, I think that's an asset that students should explore. Because a lot of the interesting work is across subfields. It's not just one subfield, and certainly the boundaries between comparative and IR have faded a little bit, and there is a lot of room for corruption, and that's true even of the Americanist field, where a lot of the several of us who do foreign policy are by default also doing American politics. So that's an interesting intersection that I think students could benefit from greatly, and if they go beyond the limited subfield that they put into and understand there's a broader community they can appeal to. I've also found that you can appeal to beyond our department. There are a lot of people who do relevant work, and I've actually benefited from working with people across different departments on campus. So we have that. In addition, obviously, there is our location. I mean, a lot of people often forget that we're inside the Beltway. Think Maryland, a lot of people think Baltimore, which is not that far either. But nonetheless, we're obviously closer to Washington. We have the metro near campus. And that means we have incredible resources for people to exploit. And resources for use in terms of experts, whether they're in politics or in the executive branch or think tanks or NGOs. The resources are amazing. It's also an amazing opportunity to network, particularly for career building. To link up with them. I know that when people come to grad school, honestly, it's consuming. I mean, we all know it's often hard to find the time to, even do something else on campus, let alone, taking the metro down to Washington to attend something else. I think you'd have to work at it, but know that the resources are there. And I think that, to me, that has been an essential asset that has helped me throughout my career.
Thank you so much. So as a closing question, I've been asking everyone, what's your favorite part of the University of Maryland?
Oh, well, of course, the students. What can I say? No, I really, in all honesty, it's like I've been happy at other institutions. But what I like about Maryland, honestly, is the fact that it's a diverse community. It is a very diverse community. I am a public education person. I came into this country as a foreign student, but I studied at a public university, the Queens College of the City University of New York, where I got my BA in mathematics. And I did my PhD at a public university, University of California at Berkeley. And I love public universities in large part because the diversity that they bring, that I think is now essential for how we do business. And I think that might be the strongest asset we have.
Great. Thank you so much for all of your time today, Dr. Telhami. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
My pleasure.